The history of language is a history of objects. Do you know anybody who speaks Latin or Egyptian or Sumerian as a first language? No, you don't. And nobody's been a first speaker of any of those languages for at least a millennia. So why are we so confident in the meanings and the spellings and the pronunciation of words in these languages? The answer? Historical objects. Ancient cultures have left a lot of writings behind. And if we can read them, decode them, and learn from them, we get a little window into the past. Not only the history of linguistics, but human history. I'm going to have more videos about these objects, not instead of etymology videos, but alongside them, in a series I'm going to call OITHL, Objects in the History of Language. So to start with some low-hanging fruit, let's talk about the historic and linguistic impact of an object everybody knows about, the Rosetta Stone. It's a decree written in Memphis, Egypt, on the 27th of March, 196 BC. We know that because it's written right on the stone. It was a decree written by King Ptolemy V during a particularly turbulent time in Egyptian history. You see, to the south, he had people who were revolting against him. And to the east, he had other ex-Alexander the Great's empire nations that were expanding. So, in order to solidify his power in northern Egypt, he had to appeal to the priests. So, he wrote them a letter that essentially said, I have given you silver, I have given you grain, and last year the Nile flooded extra, so I dammed it up and we used that water to help the farmers this year. So, in return, turn my day of my coronation and my birthday into holidays, and worship me alongside all the other gods. To appeal to the priests even more, he writes it in 3 languages. Hieroglyphics, the language of the gods, Demotic, the language of documents, and Greek, the language of the government. Time was not nice to the Rosetta Stone. The top part that was most of the hieroglyphics was broke off. And the Ottomans turned it into a fort, used it for building material in the 15th century. The Ottomans have a long history of taking old Egyptian things, like temples, and using them to build things as if they're quarries. It wasn't until 1799, when the French invaded Egypt under Napoleon, that the Rosetta Stone was discovered and seen for what it really was. It was the first bilingual hieroglyphic document, essentially, that had been found. You see, the inclusion of Greek in the stone was huge. Greek is a language that is not only a good contender for the oldest living language, its writing system and its vocabulary is very well understood thousands of years into the past. Translating the Greek part is relatively easy, which opens up the Demotic. Demotic, which was the middle script, is essentially simplified hieroglyphics. The great thing about Demotic is you can find a proper name, which is a word that would not be too different in multiple languages, compare it to the Greek, and see what letters line up with what sounds, so you can figure out what sounds each letter makes, and apply that to the rest of the stone to learn what the words say in Demotic. Then you can take the Demotic, and if you can realize that Demotic is simply simplified hieroglyphics, you can compare the two, and boom, you've cracked the code. You know exactly what every hieroglyphic says, ever. It's super easy. Okay, it's not that easy. Hieroglyphics, at this point in time when the Rosetta Stone was being written, were at least 3.5 millennia old. That's 3.5 millennia of complication, of the language slowly changing over time. And more features being introduced in a language that wasn't spoken by the everyday Egyptian. I mean, it was spoken by the everyday Egyptian, but it wasn't read by the everyday Egyptian. It was written by people who were very educated and had a lot of room to be sneaky, if that makes sense. A lot of room to complicate things, to make them have more meaning. You see, hieroglyphics, it's not simply an alphabet. Some of the symbols are sounds, like an alphabet. Some of the symbols are words, kind of like Chinese. It was a logographic thing. And some of the symbols are what linguists call determinatives, which are extra symbols that would not be said out loud that just let you know what the previous sentence is talking about. It wasn't until 1820, 21 years after the stone was found, that a Frenchman by the name of Jean-François Champollion translated the hieroglyphics. This finally cracked the code. It opened up all of ancient Egypt's past that was scrolled on the walls of temples and the pyramids and everywhere else, so that we could finally understand what these writings were saying. After all, hieroglyphic is Greek for Holy Script. Thank you for watching Word Nerd. Be sure to like, comment, Thank you for watching Ling King. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and have a great day. Bye-bye.